Welcome into Boxing Scene Today here at the Pro Box TV studios. Well, a huge fight coming up. We all know about Crawford versus Canelo, and none other than Abel Sanchez has weighed in about the weight of Terence Crawford heading into his 168-pound showdown. If you follow social media, Crawford is looking big, like he's filled up to at least close to the super middleweight division. But is that a good thing? Abel Sanchez doesn't think so. But what do the experts think? I'm sitting next to one of them, Paulie Malignaggi, of course, Chris Algieri joining us via Zoom, and the coach, Robert Garcia. Paulie, let me start with you. You have seen the pictures. Crawford is looking very, very big, but Abel Sanchez says that'll take away some of the movement, the explosiveness, the athleticism that made him great at 47 and 54. What's your thought on it?
Yeah, I think that comes with it. I mean, listen, let's call a spade, right? When you get bigger, you do slow down a little bit, but that doesn't mean he's going to be ineffective at that weight. I think it's a bona fide good point to make. Sometimes it does wind up that way, but I'll give you Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. Put on weight, was muscular as he moved up the weight classes, and it didn't affect him. Good old Manny Pacquiao did the same thing, So there's times where it affects, and there's times where I guess if you put it on the right way. Only Crawford knows it because the way he's training, right? Because you're going to be sparring with this added weight. You're going to be doing the boxing training with this added weight. So you're going to know how to, maybe taper it down if you need to or keep it going if you need to. I think over the course of camp, if you start to feel too yoked up and, you get big and then, you're sacrificing reflexes, you're sacrificing athleticism, I think you're going to feel it. You have plenty of time to train for the fight, so you'll make the proper adjustments.
Yeah, what I'm curious about is Chris, what Paulie just said about Roy Jones Jr. Remember, when he fought John Ruiz, he was just over 200 pounds. He was not a big heavy. He was I think 205 when he fought Ruiz. So, yeah, into the heavyweight range, but the lower end of the heavyweight range. He put on weight, but he didn't put on heavyweight kind of weight. What's your thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, well, Roy Jones is Roy Jones, but also Terence Crawford is Terence Crawford. But John Ruiz is not Canelo Alvarez, so that's another aspect of that comparison. And yes, exactly what the champ said, exactly what Abel Sanchez said. You're going to put on weight, you're going to be a different fighter. And I can say this, even as a fighter as myself, as I've gotten heavier in my retirement, I try and move around the gym, it just feels different. And even when you start camp, you feel different in the beginning than you do at the end. But listen, we're still 4 or 5 weeks away. I don't know exactly what Terence is weighing right now. And even if he does say what he weighs, man, he's gone out there and said he's weighed, all types of crazy numbers just to get media to respond. So it's really not really going to know until the fight and we see these guys next to each other. He might look bigger right now, but he might not be that heavy. He might still be in the range that these guys are targeting for the fight itself. But I will say this, if you look at it historically, Floyd Mayweather, when he fought Canelo Alvarez, Floyd was 36 years old. Canelo was a young man. I think he was 21 or something like that, or 23, under 23, whatever the case may be. Floyd came in how Floyd always comes in. He didn't try to put on weight for that fight. I think he came in 150 pounds, like he always did in his big fights, and even at 36 years old. And it was his speed, it was his technical proficiency, it was his skill and his jab, which is what gave Canelo fits all night long and eventually why he lost 11 rounds to 1. So I don't know that Crawford really needs to be packing on this muscle. And I have actually argued in my own head. I'm like, yeah, but he's older. He's not Floyd. Floyd was 36 when they fought. So it's not like, Floyd was considerably younger. Crawford, I believe, is 38, and Crawford has sublime skills as well. The fact that he's putting on this weight kind of tells me that he's trying to make this more of a physical fight, trying to impose his strength in the fight, and not move around as much or not have to move around as much. Or it could be a durability thing. He expects to get hit because Canelo does have explosive, fast hands. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to kind of slice this, but ultimately, I'm not sure how much weight Crawford really needs to pack on in order to use his skills to be effective in this fight.
What I'm curious, Coach, when you look at a fight like this where somebody's moving up, his natural weight is, let's say, 54, maybe 47, is going up to 68. Those guys hit so much harder. When you're in the gym and you're getting a guy ready to move up one or multiple weight classes, how do you prepare them for getting hit by a much bigger guy? Because a lot of people are looking at Crawford are going, like Chris said, he's putting on a little mass to be able to take a better punch. What's your thought on that?
Look, with Crawford, I think gaining too much weight and too much muscle might actually might affect them if they're thinking of surviving and being able to take a punch and being able to go rounds, then they're trying to maybe go the distance, and they'll be happy with that. But I think Crawford's natural talent, Mayweather had it. You know, you guys just were just mentioning right now that he doesn't. He Crawford Mayweather never needed to gain weight and never needed to be heavy to be able to beat those bigger guys. I think Crawford's skills. We give Crawford a chance because we know how good he is, how his skills, his speed, his combinations. But if he's gaining so much weight, he might not be able to do those. He might not be able to have those same skills when it comes to his speed, his footwork because of the weight. So we'll see. I just hope he's not just training and getting big to survive and go the distance because maybe that's a win for him. Maybe he's thinking if I go the distance with him, that's a big win for me. So I just hope not. I expect Crawford to actually pull off some runs and maybe even pull off the fight. But if he's too heavy, too big, he's gonna get hit, and he's gonna have to exchange punches, and that's where the danger comes in.
Well, I got a question. How much does the physical struggle against Madrimov come into play here with his decision to put on weight? Because he looked like physically he struggled a little bit in the Madrimov fight. He was able to outskill him and pull it off late, but
a close fight.
but
that
close
not a lot of
fight,
people
and,
expect.
it seems like that it was close because the physicality of Madrimov was bigger, and Crawford had to offset it with different types of sublime skills, to use the champ's adjective. So how much of this decision to pack on this kind of weight comes from the way he felt in the Madrimov fight? Are we considering that?
Yeah, Chris, that's an excellent question. Is that one of only his team and his camp? No, but yeah, Paulie has a good point that it did seem like he physically had a little trouble with Madrimov, who was a natural 54.
Yeah, Paulie. I mean, superb observation and theory there. And again, like you said, Jimmy, we're never going to really know that unless Crawford decides to let us know that. And that's something that he had to physically decide because he was in the ring with Madrimov and felt maybe like I can't push this guy around like I'm used to pushing around everyone, Spence included, who's another very strong welterweight. Crawford was able to physically manhandle, and we've seen that against everybody that he's fought really until Madrimov. Even Jeff Horn, who was supposed to be this big giant guy, and his size was the issue that gave that was what gave Manny Pacquiao so many issues. Crawford threw him around like a rag doll. He's a very physically strong guy, and in terms of him packing on. I don't know how much stronger he's really going to get. Putting on some weight, maybe he has more weight to be more stable and have a better base and to deal with the size of Canelo. Canelo's really strong too, though. He's another guy who's physically very strong, and it's his weight class. I hope this isn't like a pissing contest kind of thing. It's like, well, I'm going to be stronger than you because I don't think that's a great tactic for Crawford if he is going to pull off this upset. I think he just has to go with the skills, man. And the thing that we've always seen from Canelo, the guys that give him trouble are guys who keeps a jab in his face. With the Bivals, the Aristoteli Laras, the Floyd Mayweathers, and Crawford can do it from both sides, and he's got a jab on both hands. So I'm not sure where all this physicality is really necessary when you have the skill set and the pop and the speed and the endurance. Because the Madrimov fight, you saw the late charges from Crawford. That was the difference. So he was able to secure that win. So I think between his endurance, I think the jab on both sides, his skills, his IQ, I don't know where we need to get all this size and strength from. But again, who knows? We might see him on fight night and he looks kind of similar to how he always looks because we are a month out. Guys' bodies change quite a bit during camp. So we'll see as we actually get there.
What I'm curious about when we talk about Floyd Mayweather, when we talk about Roy Jones Jr., Coach Robert Garcia, when you look at those guys, they were virtually unhittable in their primes, and that's where their abilities came from in higher weight classes. When it comes to Crawford, is he putting on enough power that he wants to be able to kind of keep Canelo off of him? Is that part of the reason he could be gaining this weight? Because a lot of that at 38, he may need enough pop to at least get Canelo's respect. Could that be part of the process here?
That might be part of the process, but when it comes to Crawford, and comparing him to Roy Jones or a Mayweather, I think he's there. He's there in that level to where his skills is good enough to be able to perform and be able to dominate, be able to win. I do give him a shot if he fights off his jab, smart counter punching, and just not there trying to make it a rough fight, a tough fight where they both exchange because he will be in trouble there. But if he fights smart, Canelo's the type of fighter that he's not going to start off hard. He's not going to start off too strong. He's going to start off slow. And if he starts frustrating, winning, and go get ahead 5, 6 rounds, the last 5 or 6 rounds could even be better for him because of his performance. Canelo could be a little frustrated, a little desperate to win, maybe to get a knockout, and that could benefit Crawford. I think his skills, his speed should be enough to be able to beat him if he does it smart. If he wants to exchange and wants to please the crowd and thinks he's gonna have to be big and strong, that's gonna make him a little bit slower, and he might get caught there.
Now, when you look at Erislandy Lara, which I'm sorry, when I saw it live, I thought Erislandy Lara beat Canelo. Is that the kind of boxing performance to you, Paulie, that he's going to need? Technical, tight, almost tactically perfect in that fight. Lara just gave Canelo no way in, and Erislandy Lara, not exactly huge at 160 pounds. He's nice, but he's not a gigantic 160
Yeah, I
pounds.
think their fight was at 154, right?
That was at 54, yeah. Now he's at 160.
Yeah, but the thing is, Lara stayed true to his qualities, which is his boxing. He stayed true to his identity. I don't know that Crawford is not going to stay true to his identity. We may be putting more into this than we need to, because even if you're putting on the size, it's more to be able to take any physicality. Also, maybe you want to muscle around Canelo. You want to be able to muscle him around, and maybe you didn't focus on this in the Madrimov fight like you should have. I think, one thing, at least that surprised me in the Errol Spence fight, was how physically strong Crawford was in manhandling Spence. He was hurting him with punches, but he was also physically manhandling him. Champ made a point about the Horn fight as well. Something else, another one that surprised me, because Horn, kind of specializes in making fights ugly and being physically ragdolling you. I thought that's how he gave Pacquiao trouble in their fight at welterweight. So I was surprised at that. So it could be that Crawford's, still intends to box the way Crawford does. I mean, at 38 years old, you don't just suddenly lose your identity. You have more of a hold on the identity you do have because you're more experienced. But this may be a situation where, he may also want to, who knows, surprise us and maybe try to bully Canelo in spots as well, or be able to bully him in spots as well. It may not be to be able to take it. It may be to be able to, do to Canelo, or to intend, I don't want to say for sure, to intend, the intention maybe to do to Canelo what he did to Spence.
Now, Chris, I got to ask you, because you have a background in it like I do. You were a wrestler in high school. What people don't realize is Terence Crawford was a standout wrestler. He's a really good wrestler. He has what we call grappler strength. When he gets inside, he can lock you up, underhook you, pummel, do all the things grapplers do in a way that a lot of boxers can't. Could that be part of this, as Paulie says, overall strategy? When he's inside, he's got grappler strength. A lot of people don't know that.
Well, it always has been part of his game, and throughout his career, he's been what seems to be like otherworldly strong. And when you talk to people, they all say that when they've shared the ring with them, and a lot of that comes from exactly what you're saying, Jimmy. Yes, he's a strong guy, but also he knows how to use his hips. He knows how to use these angles. He knows how to create space so he can have daylight and move guys around. I think that's going to be really hard to do to Canelo, though. If he goes out there and is able to push Canelo off balance and move and push him around, I'll be really surprised. And if that's the case, then
it's gonna be a long night.
Not only do we have a real fight, but there's a really good chance that Crawford's going to dominate the fight, because Canelo is a very strong guy, and his base is really good. And that's why actually Jim Lampley said this in an interview. He interviewed Canelo Alvarez, and he was telling the story about how much he rides his horses. He rides them almost daily, apparently. And there's a lot of lower body strength and balance and coordination that goes along with riding horses. And he says, that's why I have such a good chin. That's why I'm so durable. That's why I'm so strong. So getting that guy off his base, I think, is going to be really hard. And if Crawford goes out there and tries to make that his little first claim to victory, is trying to, push Canelo around a little bit, I don't know if that's a great idea, especially if it doesn't happen. If he's not able to do it, if he gets stopped dead because Canelo has a great base, that's going to make it for a long night for Team Crawford. But if he is able to push him off balance, then, like I said, we have a fight. But again, I think this all should go back to Crawford's skills and going out there, and he has the tools that gives Canelo problems. He's got a jab and a boxing IQ, and he moves just enough. So he has everything he needs to beat him. I don't think he needs to go will for will when you can probably beat him on skill alone. But again, we could all be making a mountain out of a molehill here, guys. This might not matter at all. The size might not really be a big deal. He might not be that much different come fight night. But this is what we do. We analyze everything that happens in fights that are this big.
Yeah, but last question I have for you, Coach Robert, is I remember Sugar Ray Leonard obviously going up to middleweight to take on Hagler, greatest middleweight of all time, in my opinion. Didn't look a ton bigger. I saw Roberto Duran go up and up and up in weight class. Didn't look a ton bigger. Nowadays, it's almost a prerequisite. It has changed a lot in, let's say, the past 15, 20 years about guys getting bigger and bigger and bigger in ways they didn't.
You got weigh-ins 2 days before the fight. Now. That's the problem.
Exactly.
Back then, you waited the day of the fight, so it wasn't a lot of as big of a difference. Now you got weigh-ins almost 2 days before the fight, literally a day and a half before the fight. So I mean, the weight jump is it becomes a problem, more of a problem.
Right. As a coach, how much has that become, as Paulie says, more of an emphasis in training in the last, I'd say, 15, 20 years?
Big difference. Paulie just said it. We got our guys weighing in the day before, early in the morning, 8 in the morning. So you do have.
And coach, in those days,
so that makes a big difference.
And coach, in the days of Duran, they weighed in at 8 in the morning the day of the fight. So it's a full 24 hours difference now.
And that's where, and that's very few shows that start at 8 in the morning. I remember I had to weigh in the day of the fight. We were weighing in at 11 in the morning, 12 noon, and fighting at 6. You know what I mean? We only had one meal. So it's a big difference. That weight is a big difference because now we do have a day and a half for sure. And, right now with so much things going on, the guys gain a lot of weight, 20, 30 pounds, and it shows at the day of the fight.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The physical battle between Crawford and Canelo, of course, as it gets closer, we will break it down right here at Boxing Scene Today, the home of your boxing news. Join us, find out why millions are watching.